Hello and welcome to the Business Junkie podcast. I'm the host, Josh Riggs, and today I have a very special guest, Kyle Reed. This dude went from farm boy to amazing entrepreneur who I've personally worked with and know can do amazing things. But without further ado, let's hear from the man himself. Kyle, how you doing today, man?
Hey man, I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me on. How are you today?
I'm doing great. In full transparency to everyone, this is the second time we're doing this intro because I screwed up the first one. So, as you were telling us before I screwed everything up, I always like to hear about the story of how you ended up an entrepreneur and this what happened before then, because I like hearing people's origin stories.
Yeah, of course. So, like you mentioned, I grew up on a farm and I went to school in Colorado. That's home to me actually for engineering, as a matter of fact. So, basically, went from farming to engineering. That engineering degree carried me down to Arkansas back in 2014. So, basically, been living in Arkansas for 8 years, 8.5 years at this point, and it that engineering degree carried me right into a corporate structure. And so I worked inside of a corporate structure for basically 7.5 years. And as you very well know, I just said I've been here for 8.5 years. So um, I effectively left last July 2021 and went all in on myself in my first company. So that's kind of the very first iteration of the start of me going all in on myself.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So when I met you, you were doing Timberland marketing, uh,
hmm
and you're still doing that. So how's that going for you? Can you tell me a little bit of what it does?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So Timberline marketing was my first attempt at kind of like a side hustle turn of business. I had been doing, selling things. I'm really good at making things out of wood. And so while I was working in my corporate structure, I was, side hustling all the time, making things out of wood, selling them. And then when COVID hit, I got really more intrigued in how in the heck I can make money sitting at a computer kind of thing
Hmm.
or working from online, and which was born essentially Timberline marketing. I got into that, basically building sales funnels, doing some basic marketing, advertising, that kind of thing. And what that morphed into was actually getting into the Google space, primarily with reputation management, really niching down on helping people drive reviews to their businesses, which then actually led me into the automation space because I was like, I can drive these reviews, but if I could figure out how to drive these reviews in an automated approach, that'd probably help me save time. It'll probably help the clients get a more consistent review generation process. And then slowly kind of morphed into I learned how to build CRMs, which actually led me into Timberline. We'll get into that in a second, I'm sure. But, anyways, yeah, Timberline marketing essentially is still very well a reputation management development company. That's like the exclusive thing that it does is help people generate reviews for their businesses and get those reviews posted on Google, Facebook, and other various applicable platforms.
And I can personally vouch for this because he helped Dedicated Health, one of my gyms, skyrocket with that. We went from not even on the what's it called, the 3 pack at the
Yeah, the
top,
Google Business 3 pack.
the
Yep.
3 pack. We weren't even near it, and then after I think 2 3 months of working with him, we were third. We had actually two because I had a trainer had his own profile and us. So the trainer was second, and we were third. So we were in there
hmm
twice, which was really awesome.
Yep.
So you mentioned you work for corporate, and then during COVID, you decided to make the switch. What was it that made you decide, like, hey, I'm going to go full in on trying to be my own boss and start my own thing?
Yeah. So, that was a year and a half after COVID had started, but I essentially went, I guess you could say, into the self development journey. Started learning about just business, started learning about what I could do to better myself, all this stuff, in that space that we're a lot of us in the business world are now in, if you will. And with that, um, my business was starting to grow, and there was some things in the corporate structure that I was starting to not enjoy, whether it be limitations in leadership, whether it be toxicity in just the work environment, whether it be misalignment in just the teams themselves. And so with that, I was effectively in a position where I had a fair bit of money saved up and I could take the risk. Most folks, they say, hey, if you're going to make your side hustle your main hustle, make sure that it has the ability to replace your entire main hustle income. That was not the case for me, but I wasn't really too concerned of it because I had a, we'll call it a nest egg in the back end to help me float in the event that I didn't get back to that replacement income as quick as I thought I would.
I completely understand that one. I was in a very similar situation. I was working a factory job at Walmart, so I was in corporate. So my job was even
Hmm.
less cool than yours was before you made the change.
Yeah.
Um, and I basically said, "Screw it. I hate this. I'm gonna go try my own thing." But I also was making
Hmm.
no money at it. So it was I think the sink or swim aspect of doing it really does make a big impact on how well you do in those kind of
Yeah.
situations.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
So you mentioned that you got really into the self-improvement side of things. Would you say that's what you would say was the biggest impact in growing your business, or what would you say really skyrocketed the whole growth of your online business?
Man, so there's two sides to that, right? So Timberline marketing was a, and I've helped people. I was just having a conversation via text earlier with a good friend of mine who's just recently gone into the same journey that I did at leaving corporate and going all in on himself. So the first iteration was realizing what I was good at and what I was not good at was one of the biggest things that helped me actually dial in a process. Now, because I was taking on projects just trying to basically make a dollar run, right? And that was ultimately that burned my ass a few times. And so not the most ideal situation. So basically learning what I was good at, dialing that in, and that's when I was in Timberline marketing and still am, of course, running reviews. And that's like I'm good at it and I knew a very consistent process. And so it started to grow and it was very consistently growing. Now, then I got into the CRM space that complemented the reviews, and that basically kind of catalyst and or catapulted me into another realm of growth. But it wasn't really until like I've created a partnership, which is Timber Lion, with my business partner. So we basically merged the branding image of both of our brands. He's got, his brand is very much related to the lion, and mine, of course, Timberline or Timberline. So we effectively merged the branding and created Timberlion. And that's a CRM development company at its core. That's what we do. And what we did is we realized both of us are really good at automation and logic when it comes to business systems. And if we can basically offer this to other people in a manner that we can offer the build and the subscription, what we're going to create is a SaaS company, if you will. And so that thing's taken off like a rocket ship. Now, I would say the catalyst for that is momentum that both of us carried into it, plus the accountability that both of us had. I was oftentimes I was kind of nervous. Like when I would throw out price points for CRM builds and they were, thousands of dollars, I was kind of nervous and I'd kind of back away from them. And he helped me understand. He's like, dude, no, like people will pay the money for things that they know are going to work and help them. And so we've stuck with that philosophy, plus just repeatedly delivering good results, things that are business systems that businesses need. Therefore referrals come back in. These clients, they want the ascension. They were like, we built them a CRM, and then like, what else can you build, all that kind of stuff. And so that was essentially iteration number two of a serious catalyst or catapult of growth.
That's absolutely awesome. So basically, you just found someone who aligned with your vision, and you just, for nerd versions out there, Fusion Hod combined and
Yeah,
made this Timber Lion that is
that's
absolutely
correct.
crushing it. That's really cool,
Yeah,
man.
man.
So, you were actually just telling me, if you, I don't know if you don't mind discussing it, you just landed a pretty decent sized deal. And I know you mentioned on your side you were a little nervous about that. Were you shaking your boots whenever you're about to offer that price point?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's always a nervous or a nerve-wracking thing to get into. Like, for example, it's in the quantity of at least five times, four times to five times the price that or the development cost than anything we had done prior to that. And so it's definitely nerve-wracking because now we're dealing with things that I'm no longer. Let's think about it this way: I'm no longer in that employee role to where if I give something up, I don't have to, it does not come out of my pocket. Like when I was at, in a corporate role, I made plenty of mistakes and I was given the freedom to make those kinds of mistakes, knowing that people are people, they're human, right?
Mhm.
Now, You throw a deal like this on the table, if we mess up and we don't deliver and they don't like it, they could sue us. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we're doing great, but at the same time, they're at a level of like probably 20 or 30 times bigger than us. So they have the means to do things that could detrimentally affect us. Now, that being said, I'm not nervous that we won't deliver. But at the same time, you get into different quant or different scale of projects. It is nerve wracking. That's for sure. Like when Ryan and I decided, okay, we're going to take this project, we're going to run with it, and we're going to deliver. I'm like, okay, and granted, to be quite honest, we actually hired and built it right into the proposal. We hired a coach to help mentor us through this project. And so, I've never been afraid of basically sharing the fruit or sharing the piece of pie, if you will, and helping other people and helping everybody get the results or deliver whatever it is. And in that capacity, we hired a mentor to help us through this entire project, 4 months worth of actually mentoring for this.
That's absolutely awesome. I am a huge advocate for that too. Like, I'm never afraid to go out and be like, "Hey, I I need help to make this bigger vision happen, so let's get someone out here to help us with this." But I
Hmm.
think that's the first time I heard someone who found someone during the process of fulfilling something else.
Yep.
That's amazing. Did it take you a while to
Actually,
find them, or?
No, actually, he's right out of the Apex community, and probably I'm gonna say 10, 15 times farther ahead than we are, if you will. And I've seen him deliver results in the capacity that we needed to deliver in a very niched area. And so I actually literally paid the guy to ask him, do you think this is even a project that we should take on? And he said, these are the things that you need to look at in order, ask them if this, that, and the other are things that they need, if they can handle, so on and so forth. And then, so I literally paid the guy to tell me that I need to ask that. So then I could go back to the client or the prospect at the time, have those conversations, and then report back to our mentor. And then he said, well, this is what it would cost for me to basically stay on as a weekly call and help you make sure that you're maintaining milestones, everything like that. So I legit paid the dude to give us our honest opinion if we even should take the project. And in his honest opinion, he was like, "You guys are ready for this. It's not going to be easy, but in all reality." It was something that we wanted to do. It was something that we really needed to do in order to take our company and prove that we could grow to a level of what we have just or basically are in the final stages of executing on.
And honestly, like, all the right things in life never are the easy ones anyway, so it sounds like it was the
Yeah,
perfect time to do it, because if you feel like you're ready for something, it's already too late. Like, you've already missed it.
yeah,
It doesn't matter anymore.
yeah,
So, I think that's
yeah,
absolutely awesome. I
yeah, man.
For anyone who owns a business, you know how valuable time is, and anytime you can automate something or have something that makes you get the same level or higher quality of work done, but take less of your time to do it and you earn that time back, it's a life-changing experience. And sounds like, well, I know for a fact you're an expert on this because you've helped me with it and you've helped several other people with it. So I wanted to go over 5 tips or 5 ways that a CRM tool can actually help entrepreneurs and business owners get their life back and get their time back.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So like we were talking about prior to this, I put a little bit of thought into this, and at first I was like, okay, what am I gonna really let your audience know on this? And then it all clicked when I've been on several Zoom calls today with clients. They were asking because when we build systems, give you an idea, we build them what they need and what they need in the future. But at the same time, oftentimes it produces a catalyst to the point that they get where they needed to be soon. And then they're like, okay, what can we add to this? So we built them a vehicle. Now they're ready to, put the turbos. I always like to use that terminology. They're ready to put the turbos on it and go from there. So I've had several conversations just today that folks are like, "Hey, what can we do to better improve what we have?" And it comes back to it's all a fundamental thing. Now, you ask me like 5 ways essentially that a CRM can help a person get their time or get their lives back. One, and it's actually in a sequential order, in my opinion. The very first one is simply time. CRMs or any kind of automation platform can help a person essentially get time back simply in the fact that there are so many little tasks, communications, maybe task creations, emails, text messages, following up, or not, just so many little automated pieces that a CRM can do that literally just takes that time right out of the need of somebody else to do. Now, that leads me into step number two, or essentially tip number two, if you will, which is repeatability. So, as well as I do, humans are not perfect, but systems, if they're designed in the way to work perfectly, and it might take a couple iterations to get there, systems do the same thing at the same time every single time. So the trigger happens, all the actions happen. Unless, of course, we have some freak thing happen and there's a bug, or there's a blip in the software. There's repeatability in that process. And so knowing that every single time that one thing or multiple things need to happens is essentially creating that repeatability process, which then leads me into step number three, if you will, which creates scalability. Now that you have a tool that's giving you your time back, and it's also creating repeatability in your process, you've now created a scalable model. So you basically get to a point where you have, I guess it's really just a simple thought process of, if you have that repeatability, and you've started getting your time back, you can now, as an owner of an operation, start to focus more on revenue generating activities, which effectively leads me to point number four, which is delegation. So let's think about this. This is one of my biggest, I guess you could say, biggest pieces to a CRM, and the thought process of why these tools are important and powerful. Let's say as an owner, you're still an owner operator. Maybe we'll just use like a roofing company. That owner, they're still working in the sales role. They're still answering some phone calls. They're still, text messaging people back, or emailing, or providing quotes, or whatever it is. If the tool is helping them get a lot of the mundane tasks off of their plate, and then they're able to really create a little bit of scalability and start focusing on the revenue generating activities. What they can then do is allow a person who actually may have needed to step in that role, or had already stepped into some of those roles, answering the phones, replying back and forth, generating quotes, or whatever, sending emails when certain things happen, sending text messages when certain things happen, even going as far as like setting up different accounts when different triggers are created. If a system's doing that, now an owner can let a person that was doing that step up into what the owner, or maybe a person just under the owner, would be able to do. So now you've basically shifted the entire workforce inside of an operation and their responsibilities. You've taken the low level responsibilities that a person needed to do, automated it. And then you've given the person that was doing that a higher up task. Therefore, that person has the ability to not only make more money for themselves, but make more money for the company, because now the person above them can then focus on maybe the owner's tasks, and the owner can effectively, which leads me to step number five, essentially step out of be in the role of the business and actually focus on the business. So essentially a recap of that right quick is just basically getting more time back, creating repeatability, then creating scalability, then handling delegation, and then simply removing themselves from the business day to day, and ultimately at some point in time completely removing themselves from a business as a whole. Give you an idea, like a real life example, my business partner's done this 9 times out of 10. Ours is the 10th of his, and he works maybe an hour a month in 9 other businesses total, and they're all fully running hot and heavy.
That is absolutely awesome because I'm pretty sure I can speak for myself in this one. No one starts a business and has just working 24/7 in mind. Like, that's not their end goal. It's what happens, especially in the beginning.
Hmm.
Like, you work your ass off in the beginning, but
Hmm.
uh, the end goal is to eventually work yourself into that owner position. And it sounds like CRMs is definitely a very necessary and very crucial role in that, because you can get rid of a lot of those low level tasks and scale people up. That is absolutely awesome. I love the way you broke it down too, because it's very actionable. How long
Hmm.
would you say, for someone who's watching this and they're just starting it, from start to finish, phase one to phase five, if someone's a good executor, how long do they think it would take to do that if they have a good team and they have a good software?
Man, I think that's going to depend on a few things, right? There's things that dictate how long that'll take. For one, the business model.
Hmm.
So think about this. If you're dealing with a business that has a lot of subcontractors, you're introducing, and there's nothing wrong with having subcontractors. A roofing company oftentimes does not put roofs on. They have a subcontracted or a bunch of subcontractors that actually put the roof on. But let's say, for example, like our own, we've got like we're running very lean and we can develop and run very quickly. And so we don't need subcontractors, and if we do, they're very easy. Like we've got a few of them, but they're very easy to maintain, very easy to manage, and that kind of stuff. So I've never actually been asked that question, but let me say this: I would say I don't want to set an expectation for somebody to be like, "Oh, Kyle said this, I should be able to do that," and then in 2 years they're not there, and they're like, "Kyle, what the heck? You told me that you could do this, and I'm not there yet." But in my opinion, this you got to go through the seasons of like a year or at least more than a year to understand even the cycles of like the sale, and then the cycle of effectively your production or client success, customer success type of role, if you will. Because think about, there, as much as we don't like it to affect us, um, the time of the year is going to affect how business runs. People
Hmm.
have different buying patterns, people have different selling patterns. People, some folks may get a little lax in December. Some folks may want to like hammer down in December. Right now, we're like in hammer down phase because we got a bunch of stuff we're trying to get out before the end of the year. But, and to be quite honest, man, I haven't even been through that enough myself to give like a concrete answer. But if I were to take like a, based on what I know, and if like a serious implementation and the clients that we've seen that really deep dive and um, do like everything that the CRM needs to be doing and let the thing implement or let the CRM implement in its natural course. And then, basically step two, start handling like hiring pipelines and automating that hiring step. Uh, man, dude, I think it could be done in 6 months. I really do, because we've got a couple clients that 6 months. I mean, it's December, so 6 months ago, right in like May, dude, these folks were like struggle bussing. I remember there was one day, the guy was like, "Hey, I'm chilling at the house. I have nothing to do," and now he's got like 3 trucks. He's got employees running the trucks. He's kind of running a little bit more of the office, and I would say another 6 months, and he could have people in that place, and he could be off doing another thing. Now, he has no subcontractors. He's basically got employees. It's a very simple business operation. But on the other side, I'm going to suspect that Ryan and I, our Timber Lion, would be 2 years to get to that point. But think about this: that example I gave you is a pressure washing company. And I'm
Hmm.
not putting pressure washing down in any sense. Like, that's not what I'm doing. But at the same time, building a or pressure washing something, it's a very easy process to kind of get the habit of. SOPs are easy. Building a CRM, say for example, your gym versus that pressure washing company versus a CPA firm, all of that kind of stuff. If I'm not niching down to a very like literally only handling roofing companies, then getting the knowledge, for one, how to automate, how to develop these onto basically training documents, videos, and then into somebody else's head to where then they can deliver the same results that we are, is going to take an exorbitant amount of time in comparison to other types of business models. So I would say, in the short order, I legit think it could be done in 6 months if you knew what you were doing and if everything was followed to the T. But at the same time, I think 2 years is probably a more reasonable and feasible timeline.
Well, I mean, that's still pretty awesome and probably next to impossible if you don't have the right systems in place. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
definitely proves the value of software. I talked about in a previous video the 5 things I've invested in that made the biggest impact on me, and number 5 was software and gear, which is basically
Mhm.
anything that can make your work go faster and more efficiently. So, I mean,
Yeah. Well, even
definitely worth it.
better on that. Like, for example, the now granted, I'm in a mobile setup at the moment because I'm not at my own house. I'm in an Airbnb in Colorado right now. But like for example, the camera I'm running, it was an upgrade of gear. It was $1,200 $1,500 to get this setup going. And the thing is it's dramatically increased just the level of presentation, the professionalism of my presentation when I'm doing demos or when I'm on calls with clients to the point that they notice it.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to just be software, but all these little things kind of add up to help you get to that next level of essentially ownership, if you will. I can say this, I'm not there yet, but it's the yet. And so we're working our way to it. That's for sure.
I completely agree, and you'll be there before you know it because I've seen the way you operate. You're a freaking machine. But with that being said, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this going, "Man, this guy sounds pretty awesome. I want to definitely work with him." What would be the best way, and I'll link this below too, to get a hold of you and start getting their CRM set up?
Yeah, man. I've made it easy for folks to get in touch with me. My website, or essentially a landing page for me, is kylegreed.com. And that's Kyle Greed, if you will. That's my middle name is G or Garrett. And so kylegreed.com. And on there, the easiest way to do is just click the either the Facebook button. Actually, the Facebook button is going to be the easiest way. Slide into my DMs on Facebook. Rather than giving you my long Facebook URL, I just say kylegreed.com, click that Facebook button and come find me, kind of thing. Slide in my DMs, and I'm here.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kyle. You're a huge help, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing all the cool things that you come out. I'm sure we'll have you on here again in the future. But for now, if you're looking for a CRM, here's the guy for it. And those were ways that you can use a CRM to get back your life as a business owner. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.